For nearly a century, Louisiana's main economic engines were sugarcane and cotton. What began in the 1750s continued to the Civil War, as the state produced over 95% of the sugar in the United States, and almost 1/3 of all cotton exported throughout the world. The rich Mississippi and Red River Valley lands were perfect for growing these lucrative crops. Also growing was a critical need for labor. In the early 19th century, until the onset of the Civil War, the slave labor force grew to almost 50% of the entire population. Along Louisiana's countryside, one could find extensive plantations with ornate mansions, slave cabins, lush gardens, and hundreds of acres of profitable land. But not everyone in rural Louisiana was a wealthy planter or slave. In the prairies of the Southwest and piney woods and hills of North Louisiana, rural whites and free blacks were a majority of the population. They lived on small farms and produced crops to meet their families' needs and sold any surplus to neighboring towns and cities. However, at the end of the Civil War, Louisiana was devastated. Sugar and cotton industries worth millions and priceless land now worthless, homes and barns destroyed. Yet to African Americans, these same events ended centuries of brutal slavery. It was a moment of triumph, of hope, for half the population of Louisiana. But economic conditions for many in rural areas were harsh. The struggle to survive was difficult for black and white. Small farmers suddenly found themselves without any land holdings, and former slaves owned no property.
So when freedom came and you're told, I'm free, a lot of those people didn't know what to do. And there was a time of transition, because now they have to pay for clothing, they have to pay for food, they have to pay for the quarters they lived in.
And it meant that whites had to pay their labor. Cash was scarce, and what emerged was a system for sharecropping. Laborers worked the land for a percentage of the crop. Many received scrip, or plantation money, that could only be spent at the plantation store. The difficult economic and social impact of post-war Louisiana continued for decades.
I think it starts to change after World War II, and simply because the United States started to change. The 20th century didn't come to Louisiana until 1946, and because most areas of Louisiana didn't have electricity until the late 40s and 50s, and there were still many areas were still dependent upon cisterns and outhouses and such to that degree.
Today, as a reminder of what life was like for the laboring class in earlier times, stands the Louisiana State University Rural Life Museum. Once a 600-acre tract of land purchased at a sheriff's sale over a century ago, the modest Windrush Plantation was home for the Burden family. William Pike and Ollie Steele Burden had 3 children. When William died at a young age, Ollie and the children, with help from farmhands, were able to sustain their lifestyle and develop the land. The firstborn, Ione Easter Burden, as an adult, devoted much of her life to LSU, where she received a bachelor's in English and ultimately became director of social activities. Her brother, William Pike Jr., attended the university, but in the spring of 1917 entered the Great War, World War I, where he became a pilot. The youngest child of Pike Sr. and Ollie Bryce Steele Burden, better known as Steele, loved the natural world and was a gifted landscape designer. Along with the lush gardens of Windrush, many of the live oaks and magnolias still enjoyed on LSU campus today were planted by Steele Burden. Of the 3 children, none had children of their own. When all were in their 60s, they were faced with the dilemma of what to do with the property. In 1966, Ione, Pike and Steele Burden began the process of donating their homeland to LSU.
It was Steele Burden that had this idea. Why don't we just leave it as a green space? Why don't we do something to protect it? Why don't we do it in honor of our parents who really strive to keep this property together? And so they all agreed to that.
It was during his time working at LSU that Steele Burden noticed a collection of 19th century folk objects and farm tools stored in the university's rodeo stadium. He offered to move the artifacts to his garden studio at Windrush, and eventually, with funding from the university for a metal building, he combined that collection with his own, and in 1970 began the LSU Rural Life Museum. Burden brought in key LSU advisors, Louis Anzalone, Chancellor Cecil Taylor, and Dub Kennedy, to help with his dream project. With additional support from Johnny Cox, Fred Niffen, Milton Newton, and Robert Newman, Burden's vision for the property would soon flourish. He realized early in his life that the history of plantation workers, both free and slave, and yeoman farmers was basically forgotten. With some of his own money and help from his sister Ione, Burden was able to move to Windrush the former slave cabins from nearby Wellham Plantation, where they were slated for destruction. He employed his close friend W.H. Brown to coordinate the move and restoration of the buildings. The plantation section of the museum preserves the working buildings found behind the big house. Alarahan Fox, Alphas Hatchie, Arnested Varr, Daver Naholis, and William Riogetti were the 5 slaves named in the 1850 census at Wellham Plantation. There were 63 in all listed that year, ranging from a blind 75-year-old to a 1-year-old baby. These cabins would have been their homes. The red curtains hung from the windows and doorways were believed to ward off evil spirits. The mortise and tenon cypress cabins were built between 1830 and 1840.
The slave cabins were built and to varying degrees of comfort. It depended upon what the owner felt was the best for his or her slaves.
Where you would have 2 cabins that were separated by a fireplace, a 2-sided fireplace wall. So fairly inexpensive construction. Duplexes being easier and cheaper to build than an individual house for every slave family.
These houses, after slavery went away and they became like sharecroppers' housing, they still had a lot of people living in them, and they would tend to put boards across the exposed beams in the ceiling, and then they'd put the quilts and stuff on top of it, and you could sleep a lot of people. This little house here could very well have had 6, 7, 8 people living in it.
The interesting point of the South is that the majority of the black population that lives in the South lives pretty much the same place that their forefathers lived as slaves on the plantation.
Built in 1835, the Overseer's House is classical revival style, with each of the 4 rooms having its own fireplace. The original walls were of bousillage construction, a familiar building technique in Louisiana prior to the 1840s.
I would think that more time was spent out here on the front porch than anywhere else in the structure. You would go inside to sleep, you might go inside to eat, but this is the most comfortable place on a structure like this. You have shade, and you can see what people are doing, and if you're an overseer, you can communicate with people that are on the plantation.
The overseer was responsible for slaves, land, livestock, and equipment. Following the Civil War, sharecroppers and their overseers continued to supervise laborers on the plantation. This house, like many here, was lived in well into the 20th century.
It reminds me of being home On Welland Plantation, where I was born and raised, it was no different than this. Just like this. That's the way I grew up. And that was back, I was born in 1938. That's how far back it was. You see those bowls right here? That's what we used to use to put water in for the horses and the cattle to drink water out of. You know, back in the fields, and in the pastures.
Yeah. So this is it right here? Which one?
That's it.
Oh, that's it? Oh, look how dressed up they fixed
Got
it.
it all dressed up. My old home. The only heat they had was fireplaces with chimneys. And those houses didn't have any insulation at all. And it was one thing my daddy said, when the lights go out, the fire go out. We're not gonna sleep with the fireplaces on. So we get under those quilts. And sometimes it gets cold, you put 2 of those quilts on you. My daddy was a produce farmer. We used to rent 40 acres and plant bell peppers in the summer, in those shallots in the winter.
My grandparents brought up 10 children in this house. There was an outside kitchen. I remember that the stove was a cast iron black potbelly stove that you had to put coals in, and you had to get the stove going before you could actually, put the pots on. And the pots were cast iron, made the best jambalaya, the best gumbos. When they were living here, they had the usual wash stand with the bowl and the pitcher, so forth. As I became older, they were one of the first in the lane to get a bathroom, and everybody was excited because we were going to have a bathroom nearby. We wouldn't have to use the outhouses any longer. But they had a lavatory with one faucet because all we had was cold water. We had to bring the hot water in from the kitchen, especially if we were going to bathe. My grandparents had a garden, my parents had a garden, the neighbors had gardens. All of the people in the quarter who lived in the cabins, we all had gardens. The blacksmith shop was located almost next to this house. And of course, my grandfather, worked in the blacksmith shop as well as being an overseer. He would have to fix the cane carts. Maybe a wheel had fallen off or some other farm implement had to be repaired.
A blacksmith crafted and repaired the tools needed for 19th and early 20th century farming. They were considered one of the most highly skilled workmen on the plantation. The blacksmith shop at Rural Life was constructed around 1840 and also came from Welland Plantation. The building features mortise and tenon construction. The forge in this shop was copied from an original found at New Hope Plantation in Ascension Parish. Before the Civil War, slaves worshipped in secret or under the supervision of their owners. After the war, the church was often located in the center of the quarters, where singing and preaching could be heard by all. And black ministers provided hope for the future and held the community together.
As a group, now they can survive the political chaos that was going on during Reconstruction. And that group becomes a social foundation, a religious foundation, and a political foundation with their lives.
The former slaves from Welland Plantation started the College Grove Baptist Church at College Point, Louisiana, where many of their descendants attended until the 1970s. As a congregation, the parishioners donated the church to the Rural Life Museum.
If you look to my right on the second bench, that's mostly where I sit at. And my mom sat with me. I wasn't very far from the pulpit if I was needed. My bigger brother sat up front. One of my brothers even sat on the pulpit. He was a deacon. Sisters and aunties sat on this side mostly. This is what gave us the strength to keep going, that we would come and hear my father belt out wonderful sermons. And it just means so much to this part of Louisiana ourselves. Look what the Lord has done. Anybody want to praise God for that? We ought to look around ourselves. And look what the Lord has done for us. Amen? He has done so much. Coming here gave us faith that, that things are going to get better, that hold your head up high. Believe that the Lord will make a way somehow. That came from here. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Son, what I'm doing here is showing you where your grandfather and your great-grandfather come from, and his siblings. These are the type of places that they had to stay in. And as you can see, this is no comparison to the room that you have at home right now. But they made it through. They survived because of their ability to survive, not having a whole lot. I know that we can do even better because of all that the Lord has blessed us with. I'm never to forget that my great-grandparents were actually slaves. So we have relatives that are graduating from college. We've come a long way. Our parents, sharecroppers, now to be owners now and to have things that belong to you means a lot to the family. You like to live out here? Oh. No, okay, good.
Hi there, I'm Betsy Baker Miller, a longtime friend and also a longtime supporter of Louisiana Public Broadcasting. I'm joining you this evening for this very special presentation of A Living History. LSU Rural Life Museum turns 50. Welcome to the LPB studios during LPB's membership drive. We love to bring you stories about the people, places, and history of Louisiana. We'd love it if you would pick up the phone and make your pledge by calling 888-769-5000, or you can go online to lpb.org and use our secure server. You know, through your pledging to us and your gifts to us, we are able to continue to bring you more programs that are important to you, such as this one. And we'd love it if you would consider becoming a sustaining member with an easy monthly donation in any amount of your choosing. The volunteers on the phone bank will help you select that perfect thank you gift. You know, I'm also here in the studio with Clay Fourier, a longtime friend and also a longtime LPB person. And Clay, why don't you share with us about the thank you gifts that we have this evening?
Hey, thank you very much, Betsy. Yes, we do have a lot of great thank you gifts, and we appreciate everybody who is calling in. You know, it is our mission to tell Louisiana stories, and this is a fantastic Louisiana story and a beautiful one that producer Tika Loden has produced for us tonight. Everyone is here with the Rural Life Museum. We're all very enthused about this, and we'd like for you to call us right now at 888-769-5000 or go online to lpb.org. Make that pledge of support. We have some very, very special thank you gifts tonight. Let's go over those, shall we? Here we go, folks. To become a friend of LPB for the $15 a month, that's only $15 a month, or a one-time gift of $180, you will receive your choice of the DVD or digital download of the program that you're watching, A Living History LSU Rural Life Museum Turns 50. You'll also get the brand new LSU Rural Life Museum book and the Burden and Museum Gardens, A Family's Gift DVD or digital download, and to add all to that, the LPB mug. Now, for a $10 a month or one-time contribution of $120, you can receive A Living History, the LSU Rural Life Museum Turns 50, and for your sustaining membership of $6 a month or a one-time gift of $72, you'll receive A Living History, the LSU Rural Life Museum Turns 50 DVD or digital download, and that LPB Gumbo mug. And by the way, folks, in addition to that, you're going to receive Visions, our monthly program guide. You're going to get a year subscription to Louisiana Life magazine. And of course, our popular member benefit, our very own streaming service, Passport. So call us right now on the number you see on your screen, 888-769-5000. Go to lpb.org. Make that pledge of support now. Let's go back on over to Betsy.
Thank you so much, Clay. I'm here in the studio with two people that are very important to the Rural Life Museum, and some of them may be familiar from watching this program. I'm here with the director, David Floyd, and with the associate director, Bill Stark. Welcome. So happy to have you here with us with this fabulous program where we're getting to learn the inside about Rural Life Museum. 50 years.
It's unbelievable. Steele Burton had a dream. He had this passion to preserve something of the plantation life that wasn't the big house. And that passion went on to talk about the plain folk, which is 99.9% of us.
That's it.
And this is a story of how it all began.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. How long have you been associated with Rural Life Museum?
5 years as a student and 25 as a director.
Okay, so you've seen many of the transitions, the new addition that came on, and I call it new. How many years has that been open?
10 years.
10 years, the new additions, like the new Mississippi River Bridge, right? And Bill, I think you have something to share with us about a member challenge.
Yes, we do. The Friends of the LSU Rural Life Museum are proud to support the programming on LPB and are challenging all viewers to donate tonight. And they will match dollar for dollar the first $1,500 called in during this program only. In effect, this will make your donation worth twice as much to LPB. Together, we can keep LPB strong in Louisiana.
Now, we were talking, there are a lot of activities all year round at the Rural Life Museum. Can you give us just a thumbnail sketch of a few of those?
We've had so many, and I'll tell you, this year, 2020, we're going to even have more special programs go on throughout the year. But right now we have the Beer Fest is coming up, which is very, very popular.
That's popular in Louisiana, I would think.
It's the oldest beer fest in Baton Rouge.
Yeah, there
and
you
then
go.
we have Evening at Windrush, which is one of the nicest parties. And it's been going on since 1997, can you believe it?
Wow.
And then we have the summer camp. It's an apprenticeship camp.
Okay.
You're not watching the artisans, you're learning from Louisiana artisans. You will blacksmith, you will do this, and this is for kids really 4th through 8th grade.
4th, okay. And so how long is the session? Is it a 1-week session?
It's a 1-week session in the morning while it's cooler. And these are apprentice kids come out and they end up becoming docents.
Oh.
This is where the junior docent program comes.
That's fabulous because there are a lot of people that are committed to the Rural Life Museum and they show up on a very regular basis. But let's stop so we can let Clay tell us a little bit again about these thank you gifts. Clay?
Oh, thank you very much, Betsy. Let's go over those gifts again. Again, 888-769-5000. You see them scrolling across your screen, but we want to bring them up full so you'll get a full view of those. Now, here it is. For $15 sustaining membership, we'll talk about that in just a moment, or $180 one-time pledge, you'll receive your choice of either a DVD or a digital download of this great new program we're premiering here tonight, A Living History LSU Rural Life Museum Turns 50. You'll also get their brand new book, the LSU Rural Life Museum book, and of course, Burton Museum and Gardens, a family gift DVD or digital download. That was also by LPB, and there it is, the LPB mug, speaking of LPB. A $10 a month or one-time contribution of $120, you're going to receive that book, The Living History, LSU Rural Life Museum Turns 50. And for your sustaining membership of just $6 per month or a one-time gift of $72, you're going to receive A Living History, LSU Rural Life Museum Turns 50, either the DVD or the digital download, and the LPB mug. And of course, in addition to that, we're going to get you Visions Magazine, our monthly program guide, Louisiana Public Broadcasting. I know a lot of folks like that. A year's subscription to Louisiana Life Magazine, and of course, Passport, our brand new streaming service. Now, I mentioned before that we can use the sustaining membership. We can also use Visa, MasterCard, American Express, and Discover. The folks are here, they're talking to you. Some people are asking about that sustaining membership. What's that all about? We've got a little video we want to show you, so let's take a look at that.
The Sustaining Circle is one of the most popular ways to support LPB. Signing up is simple. Your membership is always current and it's easy on your budget. As a sustainer, you make automatic monthly contributions from your checking account or credit card, and you provide LPB with reliable, ongoing support for the programs you love. Join today at lpb.org/sustain.
Become a sustaining member because it really matters to us. Your pledge becomes predictable and we can rely on that as we decide on our programming for the year ahead. And I want to tell you, that's why making your pledge during this program is important. So pick up that phone, 888-769-5000, or online at lpb.org. When you make a pledge during a specific program, you're making a vote for the kinds of programming that you want to watch. This is Louisiana specific, and this is wonderful programming that is produced here. Tika Loden was the director of this, and she did an absolutely fabulous job of putting this together. So pick up that phone, make that pledge now. I'm here with David and with Bill. David, how many visitors do you get a year?
Over 74,000.
74,000 unique visitors. Where's the furthest away visitor you've had?
Furthest away?
Yeah.
Probably the Ukraine or Russia.
Wow.
We get a lot of Orientals, Chinese.
And how do they find out about you? How do they know that they want to come here?
Associated with Louisiana State University, and that's probably our biggest billboard.
And also, you're one of the
top 10 museums as an open air museum.
Yeah.
We're one of the top 3 in the state.
And how many docents do you have that work with you?
Docents alone, we have over 150. And they give $250,000 plus of in-kind service a year.
That's huge. That's how you can support those kinds of things. Bill, I think we have a member challenge.
We do. The Friends of the LSU Rural Life Museum are proud to support the programming on LPB and are challenging all viewers to donate tonight and will match dollar for dollar the first $1,500 called in during this program only. In effect, this will make your donation worth twice as much to LPB. Together, we can keep LPB strong in Louisiana.
Hi there. Clay, do you want to give us a real short update on the thank you gifts?
You betcha I will. Betsy, let's go to them right now and take a look at those. Here you go. For $15 sustainer, $180, you can get everything you see here, the DVD, a download of the program you're seeing tonight, the brand new book, a DVD of a download of the Burton family one, and of course the LPB mug. Now, if you want to look for a little bit less than that, here we go. Next. Well, we'll get to the other slide. There it is, $10. $10 a month, a one-time contribution, $120. Living History, LSU Rural Life Museum turns 50 book. Sustaining membership, $72. One time you receive the what we're showing here tonight, DVD or digital download. Let's go back on over to Betsy and the folks.
Thank you so much, Clay. You know, I want to remind you all, everybody that's here in studio this evening is a volunteer, and we want to recognize those volunteers because it's so important to Louisiana Public Broadcasting and programming. So we have LPB volunteers on the telephones. We also have, I believe, maybe a few folks from the Rural Life Museum who are here answering phones as well. So we want to thank them. We want to thank Friends of the Rural Life Museum for their member challenge. And we want to thank Louis Cafe for the wonderful food that we have had this evening. It's gumbo back in the studio. So we can't eat in here though. So we want to say thank you for that. But we hope that you're enjoying this program. And there's more to come, and there's more stories to tell. So y'all had to work hard. I mean, Steele and Ione Burden were a critical part of this, but Steele had the thought, put the wheels in motion, and helped create what is
an unbelievable story and museum.
An unbelievable museum. So we're glad to have you with us. Pick up that phone, 888-769-5000 or lpb.org if you want to go online and sign in to our secure servers.
As Steele Burden's dream child continued to grow, more buildings, more objects, and more family stories became part of the collection.
There's a lot of stories that you can read into any structure that you can walk through, but they're not the same. They all are different, and they all have their own story.
It's the largest collection of vernacular architecture from the state of Louisiana, and also the largest collection of material culture artifacts from farms, houses, plantations, and people's actual items that they gave us. They have a provenance. They're not just things, they're things with a story and a history.
Once located in central Louisiana in an area known as No Man's Land, the Dog Trot House was completed in the 1870s by yeoman farmer Thomas Neal Sr. It was continuously occupied by members of the Neal family until 1976. Family lore of 2 shooting deaths in the house reflects the violent nature of the area.
Great-grandpa was the outlaw. He got killed. Grandpa had to finish the house.
This was actually a pretty substantial house. This is heart pine. And we're talking about virgin pine, not second cut. But we're talking about giant red pine trees.
And you would have 2 little cabins like that was separated with a breezeway, and it had a lot to do with ventilation. So it allowed each cabin to have its own ventilation and then open in the middle for air to be able to pass through it.
Now in the summertime, you tended to find cots, beds, all over the porches and in the dog trot, because this is where it was coolest.
Grandpa and Grandma, they lived here. They lived in the house, and all the children was born here in this house. Grandpa had a good well of water. Oh, you'd go there and draw water. That water would be just like ice water. Grandpa had 164 acres, and all of that was in farmland.
Located behind the Neal Dog Trot House is the Stoker Barn. This pine log barn was built by slave labor in 1848 under the supervision of Nancy Stoker. For more than a century, it served as a way station for stagecoaches that traveled the Camino Real from Natchitoches to Many, Louisiana. Also used as a way station for stagecoaches is the Stoner Athens Cabin. Once located on Greenwell Springs Road along the Amite River, it was a central stopping point between Greensburg and Baton Rouge. The virgin forests of the Florida parishes provided the wood needed for the square-hewn heart pine logs and pine floor. The cabin dates back to the 1830s. It was the home of Julia Hattie Stoner Athens, who was born in the cabin where she lived most of her 101 years. Built in 1810 by white yeoman farmers from the Carolinas, the Pioneer Cabin is another example of heart pine construction. 5 generations of one family lived in this house in the community of Sunny Hill in Washington Parish. From the pine forest of North Louisiana to the cypress swamps in the south, the wood harvested to build these houses was meant to last.
Heart cypress is one of the finest woods you can find in the entire world to build in hot, humid climates.
In February of 1765, Acadians exiled from Nova Scotia made their way to South Louisiana. By 1785, over 1,500 Acadian exiles migrated to Louisiana and to the Attakapaw Prairie. They felled cypress trees for houses, churches, and furniture. They cleared the land and planted it.
The French considered cypress wood eternal, and you could put cypress out and it wouldn't rot, it wouldn't, termites wouldn't eat it, it would weather well.
The Germain Bergeron House is believed to be the oldest standing Acadian house in Louisiana. It was built by first-generation immigrants from French Nova Scotia. Descendants of that family lived in the house until 1970.
It's built out of heart cypress. It's heavy timber, and so this house, you could take all of the infill out of it, and it would stand on its own.
In her memoir, Things That I Remember, Clotilde Pitre-Mire tells the story of her French-speaking Acadian family's life in the house. There were quilting parties. If Mama had a quilt to make, several friends would come. Mama would get up to make coffee for the ladies, and sometimes we children would play underneath the quilt, which was on the quilting frames. We also played house under the house, which was on tall pillars. We would play dolls under the house and stayed for hours until Mama would call, "Supper's ready." Although extensively renovated through the years, the original hand-split and hand-beveled exterior clapboards and bousillage entreporteaux can be seen in the cabin. The Jean-Charles Germain Bergeron House stands as a reminder of the contributions of the culture, customs, and architecture of the Acadian people. Unlike the hand-hewn cypress and pine construction found throughout the museum complex, the Shotgun House is made of flat boards supplied by one of Louisiana's steam-driven sawmills. The narrow one-room width house was commonly used on plantations and lumber mill communities as workers' quarters. These houses were sometimes disassembled and moved as the mill moved to a new location. Lumbering was an important part of Louisiana's economic history. Mills supplied lumber for local needs and exported timber overseas. Steam-driven engines were the primary source of power for Louisiana sawmills until the 1930s. The museum's Merrick walking beam steam engine was manufactured in 1861. It was purchased by Emile Lefebvre to power a sawmill on the 5,000-acre Longwood plantation. The cast iron engine was restored and given to the museum by the Giallone family.
It has a beam that rocks on a column, and by rocking it turns a wheel. And it's one of 3 known to exist. There's one at the Smithsonian, there's one at Dearborn, Henry Ford's Museum, and there's one here. This is the only one that operates.
From weapons in ancient warfare to iron bridges in 18th century England, cast iron production revolutionized the world. Mass production by the beginning of the 19th century changed the way Louisianans worked, cooked, and even buried their dead. Along with hundreds of artifacts from rural Louisiana, examples of cast iron works can be found throughout the museum's exhibit barn. Near the end of the lane is a bronze statue of an elderly African-American man tipping his hat. Uncle Jack, as he is known, is considered the most controversial artifact in the museum. Commissioned in 1926 by cotton planter Jackson Jack Bryan and sculpted by famed artist Hans Schuler, Uncle Jack was placed in a small park in downtown Natchitoches, where it remained for over 40 years. During the civil rights movement of the 1960s, a group of black citizens protested its public appearance and said the statue should be taken down or destroyed. In 1968, it was removed from the Front Street Park. 4 years later, Jo Bryan DeCorno, daughter of Jack Bryan, donated the statue to the LSU Rural Life Museum. Although sought by the Smithsonian Museum of American History, Uncle Jack remains a part of the Rural Life grounds exhibits. Close to the statue and across from the church is the cemetery. Wrought iron crosses, stone markers, immortelles, and a raised 3-compartment tomb represent rural burial sites. There's even an obelisk that once marked the graves of 2 brothers murdered in 1895. And there are the grave sites of members of the Burden family, Steele Burden and his sister Ione Burden. It was their foresight and generosity, along with their brother Pike, that led the way to the development of this 20-acre museum complex. The vast collection of vernacular architecture and artifacts reflect the rich cultural traditions of Louisiana's heritage.
The most important thing of visiting a place like the Rural Life Museum is to have some contact and understanding of your culture, of being able to look back and see how people built things, how people lived, what was their interest, what did they do, how did they grow their food, how did they cook their food. So a contact with your culture, an understanding of your culture is, I think, very important for most people, especially here in South Louisiana.
Dedicated to represent rural life in the 18th through early 20th centuries, the LSU Rural Life Museum stands as a tribute to the laboring class of Louisiana. It is a dream come true for the memory of Steele Burden, who not only embraced and lived on the land, but provided it as a lasting gift for others to enjoy for many years to come.
He realized very early in the 1940s and 50s that when people came to Louisiana, they came to New Orleans and they came to the River Road. And when they went to the River Road, all they saw was the big houses. And he thought the most interesting part of a plantation was behind the big house.
Hello and welcome back. I'm Betsy Baker Miller, volunteering this evening because I value all that LPB offers. We have just watched a living history. LSU Rural Life Museum turns 50. What a special commemoration this is for Louisiana, for this Louisiana treasure. We invite you to be a champion for the quality programming you love, such as this. You, in effect, become a producer of stories when you become a member of LPB and you support programming like this. Give us a call right now, 888-769-5000, or pledge online at lpb.org. Your donation at any level helps us throughout the year. And please consider becoming a sustaining member with an easy monthly donation in any amount of your choosing. I'm in studio again with Clay Fourier, LPB executive producer. Clay, why don't you tell us about the thank you gifts that we have?
Absolutely, Betsy, I sure will. Now, when you call 888-769-5000 or go online to lpb.org, you can use Visa, MasterCard, American Express, or Discover. You can also use the sustaining program, and the folks on the phone here will certainly be able to tell you about that one. There they are right there. They're from the Rural Life. They're answering the phones tonight. Thank you guys for volunteering, and thank you for all you who have called in already. If you call in, you got some special gifts too. Let's go over those, shall we? All right, for $15 a month, a one-time gift of $180, you're going to receive your choice of either the DVD or the digital download of the program that we've just shown you tonight, A Living History, LSU's Rural Life Museum turns 50. You'll also get the brand new book, LSU Rural Life Museum. And then there's the great DVD or digital download of our previous program, Bird Museum and Gardens, a Family's Gift, and the LPB Gumbo Mug. For $10 a month or a one-time contribution of $120, you'll receive this book, the brand new book, A Living History, LSU Rural Life Museum turns 50. And for your sustaining membership of just $6 a month or a one-time gift of $72, you'll receive A Living History, LSU's Rural Life Museum turns 50, the program we've just shown you here today, a DVD or a digital download, and yes, the LPB Gumbo Mug. Now, in addition to that, we're going to give you Visions Magazine, we're going to give you a year subscription to Louisiana Life Magazine, and of course, another year subscription to Passport, our very own streaming service. So if you want to see LPB programs, if you want to see PBS programs, you can go to that. So call us right now at 888-769-5000 or online at lpb.org. Back to Betsy.
Thank you so much, Clay. I'd like to say thank you to a few of our new members, some returning members, and people who are just making gifts to LPB. So first up, Debbie and Jeff Calmes, friends of mine, and they also thank Beth for her dedicated service to Louisiana Public Broadcasting. So Debbie and Jeff, thank you. Verna, I hope I get this name right, Cadaronella of Baton Rouge. Verna, we appreciate your gift. Thank you so much for calling in this evening. And Mary S. Jones, also of Baton Rouge. We appreciate each of you all making your contributions to Louisiana Public Broadcasting. I'm here again in the studio with the current director of the Rural Life Museum, David Floyd, and the associate director, Bill Stark. They're with me. And I don't think I'm letting this cat out of the bag, but after 25 years plus 5 as an intern, 30 years at Rural Life, you're getting ready to retire.
I am. 45 years in the business.
Is there something of which you are most proud that you have accomplished while you've been at Rural Life?
I didn't mess it up.
That is saying a lot. That is huge. But certainly you've seen huge transition over the years and quality programming.
Steel Burden picked me out and asked me to come as a director, and so I've gotten to know Bill over the years, and he's a quality person and very qualified to run the Rural Life Museum, and I'm so pleased he's coming.
So this guy over here is going to be taking your place?
He's going to be the director of the Rural Life Museum after June.
Well, that's terrific. I'm happy to see this legacy in place and know both of you, so that's terrific. Bill, I think you have something to share with us.
I do. We still have the Friends Member Challenge on the board. The Friends of the LSU Rural Life Museum are proud to support the programming on LPB and are challenging all viewers to donate tonight, and they will match dollar for dollar the first $1,500 called in during this program only. So we're closing in on the end of this opportunity. In effect, this will make your donation worth twice as much to LPB. Together we can keep LPB strong in Louisiana.
That's terrific. We thank all of you who've made your calls, but you still have time. Pick up that phone, 888-769-5000, or you can go online to lpb.org. And I think Clay can tell us about our thank you gifts.
Hey, thank you very much, Betsy. Yes, call us right now. Again, we've got volunteers from the Rural Life Museum. They're here tonight. They're answering the phones. Please give them a call with your pledge. Here's what you get for those pledges. Of course, let's go over that again. $15 a month or a one-time gift of $180. You're going to receive your choice of either a DVD or a digital download of the program that we've just premiered here tonight. That's LPB's Living History, LSU Rural Life Museum turns 50. You'll also get the Rural Life's brand new book, LSU Rural Life Museum book, which is also turns 50. You also get Burden Museum and Gardens, a family gift DVD, our digital download, and the LPB Gumbo mug. For $10 a month or a one-time contribution of $120, you'll receive a Living History, the LSU Rural Life Museum turns 50 book. For $72 or only $6 a month, if you do the math on that, you'll receive the program that we premiered here tonight, A Living History, LSU Rural Life Museum turns 50. Now, we've either got a DVD or a digital download of that, and of course the LPB Gumbo mug. In addition to that, you get the Visions magazine, you get a year subscription to Louisiana Life magazine, and you get Passport, our brand new streaming service. Now, you can use Visa, you can use MasterCard, you can use American Express, you can use Discover, but we'd love for you to use the sustaining membership. We've got a little video we want to show you about that sustaining membership. Let's take a look at that.
The Sustaining Circle is one of the most popular ways to support LPB. Signing up is simple. Your membership is always current and it's easy on your budget. As a sustainer, you make automatic monthly contributions from your checking account or credit card, and you provide LPB with reliable, ongoing support for the programs you love. Join today at lpb.org/sustain.
Thank you so much, and I'm back here with David Floyd and Bill Stark, and I think I just told you that David was getting ready to retire. Bill will be the new incoming director, so Bill, you have some new ideas and you have some things that your wheels are turning and you've got good stuff happening. So
absolutely.
Please.
I've had the opportunity to be here for about a year, so I've got to learn all the wonderful things that the LSU Rural Life Museum does well, and also see those opportunities for where we're going to be growing and new growth. And so if you haven't been to the museum in a while, we invite you to come back out and continue to be a part of us, because there's going to be some new things happening that'll be very exciting.
Well, it's a terrific time of the year. The flowers are all in bloom, so come on out to the Rural Life Museum and take a walk around. And, you know, Steel Burden, how many miles of paths did he put in place out there? You've got lots and lots of miles of paths that in the last several years have been updated, maintained, and improved. So that's a big improvement. If you're into the wildlife walk, you can come and do that. I would like to take a moment and give some special thanks. One to Tika Loudon. Tika is going to be retiring at the end of this month, and we'd like to thank her for her service to Louisiana Public Broadcasting and the production of this fabulous show that we've been watching. And in addition, I'd like to thank Rex Fortenberry. He was the photographer for this program, and if you watched it as I did, it was produced and filmed with such care and love. It's wonderful to see the perspective that he brought to this, which brings the Rural Life Museum to your home if you've never been there. So please come on out, and I think you were going to make a challenge to people to
If you liked what we did at the Rural Life Museum, this is a time to give to LPB. LPB has produced every film that we've ever had at the Rural Life Museum.
There you go.
And we've also been their backlot. So we're great partners, and support LPB, and you'll be supporting the Rural Life Museum.
That's absolutely a wonderful testament. Thank you so much for that. And we hope we raise lots of money, and we hope you all raise lots of money.
Thank you.
Because you do have a gala coming up very soon.
Absolutely.
So Evening at Windrush is coming up on the 24th. So look at your calendars, because that's a wonderful time if you're unfamiliar with this, to go live and see Windrush Plantation Home. And now back to Clay.
Hey, thank you very much, Betsy. I wanted to thank sustaining longtime member Susan Semino of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Thank you for that very special pledge. Really appreciate it. Listen, folks, we've got some great gifts. You can call right now at 888-769-5000. Use Visa, MasterCard, American Express, Discover, or the sustaining membership. For only $15 on that sustaining membership, or a one-time pledge of $180, you can get all of this. Now, that's a digital download or DVD of the program that we just premiered here tonight. That's A Living History. The LSU Rural Life Museum turns 50. The brand new LSU Rural Life Museum book. That's right, A Living History. LSU Museum turns 50. The Bird Museum and Gardens, a family gift. The DVD or digital download of that can be yours. Really nice program that we produced over here at LPB. And of course, the LPB Gumbo Mug. Now let's take a look at a sustaining membership of only $10 per month, or a one-time gift of $120. You can get this wonderful new book, A Living History. LSU Rural Life Museum turns 50. This is from the Rural Life Museum. A beautiful, beautiful new book. Also then, for your sustaining membership of only $6 a month, or a one-time gift of $72, you'll receive the program that we've got here tonight, a DVD or a digital download of it, and the LPB Gumbo Mug. Now, remember, in addition to that, we're going to give you a year's subscription to Visions Magazine, a year's subscription to Louisiana Life Magazine, and a year's subscription to Passport, our great streaming service. All that can be yours with your contributions. There's $100 more. Listen, folks, the phones are ringing. People are on the phones. We want to thank you so much for calling in. We've still got time, though. Let's go back on over to Betsy and David and Bill.
Well, I want to report out on our member challenge. Thank you to each of you who have been watching this program and who have been making your calls. We have had 13 members call in during our member challenge. We have raised $1,680 through those calls for the match of $1,500. So we have raised $3,180 during this program. So that's wonderful. One thing, David and I were chatting, and Bill and I were chatting when we were talking, that each of these buildings that's at the Rural Life Museum was an orphan somewhere, and it was dismantled at its local site and then reinstalled at the Rural Life Museum. That's an amazing feat, and what a vision that Steele had to put this traditional, how not the big plantation lived, but how real people on the farm made it
Vernacular
live.
architecture. And not only did he bring the buildings in, but he landscaped, personally landscaped the appropriate landscapes for each building. So if they were from North Louisiana, they have pine trees. If they were South Louisiana, they have a water feature or something to that degree. And it's just a magical, magical place.
It absolutely is. And we should also thank Steele Burden for the oak trees at LSU, because he planted those oak trees as well. Bill, anything you want to share with us?
I just encourage you all to keep supporting LPB. We hope to see you all out at the museum too. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
we're happy to be here.
It's been a great multi-partnership. So I want to thank everybody who's here. Everybody, we may have a few more if you want to toss those in. Clay's got them. We have a few more thank yous, but I'd like to thank everybody who's been with us this evening, all the volunteers in studio, all the camera operators are volunteers, the people answering the telephone, everybody back here. Oh, so we have Philip Jubin called in, a gift in honor of David Floyd, Marilyn Tisdale of Baton Rouge, and Sue Weaver of Flora, Louisiana, near Natchitoches. We appreciate each of you all. We appreciate everybody who supports Louisiana Public Broadcasting. And thank you for friends of LPB, friends of the LSU Rural Life Museum, and Louis Cafe. The gumbo tonight was extraordinary. So thanks, y'all.